All right, so once again, good evening, everyone. Hope you're well. Let me just share the screen and we're going to dive in. Whoever is in. I'm going to ask you in a sec if you can see my screen, hopefully. Cool. Can you type in the chat, yes or no, if you can see the screen? Hi, Tammy. Nice. All right. So if you can, let's go. This subject is actually very important because, like I said to Maddie just a second ago, we can apply it to any travels. It doesn't need to be work travel. It could be holidays, because similar principles will govern your holidays. We're basically out of routine, out of our maybe usual access to our usual products. So how to make it simpler so that you still stick to the basics, you still feel like you're in control, and you're still enjoying the holidays, or at least you're focused on work without getting an additional headache coming from balancing your macros. So importantly, why this workshop? One, I want you to understand, some of you already live and breathe that fitness isn't seasonal. It's all the time. Like, it should be happening all the time. It's for life. It shouldn't have a break. The health doesn't break just because we're on holidays, and there is still simple ways to maintain, again, the basics. Also, nutrition doesn't need to be complicated or perfect, or at least always that well balanced coming from perfect ingredients. I'll show you little tricks and swaps of what you could do without worrying too much about things that might not matter in certain circumstances. And also, because travel and busy weeks are not the moments when you should feel like you're derailed, but these are actual opportunities to reinforce that new identity of someone that is looking after their health and fitness, no matter what. So see them as opportunities, not as moments that are, yes, pleasant when it comes to holidays, for example, or inconvenient when it comes to work travels, but more as an opportunity for you to test yourself how well you actually still look after fitness without going crazy and losing sanity. And finally, that consistency in hard moments, which undeniably travels are, or busy work days, is the most important, because it brings most progress and it shifts most in terms of the mindset. Anyone can be consistent in good times, but what matters and what really drives transformation are those moments that are not perfect. So very, very quickly, macros, we need all three, regardless of your circumstances. We're talking daily intake, protein, carbs, fats. They play a different role in our nutrition, metabolism, and general functioning. Protein, pretty straightforward, repairs, builds muscle, but also controls appetite. Let's not forget that. Boost metabolism. There's loads other reasons why to include protein, but I simplified it because it's not about it during this workshop. Carbs, energy, and performance. The simplest way. It's our prior source of energy. And fats for hormones and brain health. And macros are not equal each other. Like, you could provide carbs and fats coming from Kinder Bueno or any other sweet treat, and that could be exactly the same amount of carbs and fats that you could provide from nuts and blueberries. And I'll mention it again very briefly. Today is not about macros, but cannot do that workshop without mentioning those three that will underpin any meal balancing in any circumstances. First and foremost, I always talk about protein, why it comes first. Again, for fat loss. Most of you are here, if not for fat loss, at least for recomposition. And some still want to build muscle, but that will fall into recomposition, lowering body fat and building muscle. It is possible simultaneously. It requires a specific approach to nutrition. Again, it's not today about it, but protein should always be coming first. I always tell you, start your plate with what you need first, and that is always going to be your protein. Only then, you start thinking about other things that possibly you like? So think of pasta. What am I going to have with it? Against minced beef, what am I going to have it with? Okay, so always start thinking about your meals from protein source, because that is what you need and what will have loads to do with your appetite, general portion sizes, and will keep you full for longer. Hi, Kate. Apart from boosting metabolism, controlling your hunger, it preserves lean muscle. So let's move on, because again, it's not purely about that. Quick macro guidelines, because obviously once we travel, once we're busy, we might not ideally stick to our macros. Yeah, no worries, Kate. I appreciate you. And just a quick reminder how to structure this quick template is for maintenance. For anyone, for maintenance, obviously will depend on your activity levels, gender, etc., and height and weight and goals. But by default, protein is between 1.6 to 2.2 per kilogram body weight. It will be got higher in your dieting phases because of hunger control and appetite suppressant, and being an appetite suppressant. Fats should more or less than between 20 to 30% of your daily calories, depending on the amount of carbs. In the absence of carbs, your first source of energy will be fat, another way around. But for recomposition goals, what I've noticed works better with women, especially over 35, is lowering carbs and keeping fat, sorry, other way around, keeping carbs at the first phases of dieting relatively decent, if not high, and then slowly reducing them while keeping fats pretty low, but always at that baseline of 20-30% of daily calories for, like we talked just before, for your brain function and for hormonal functions. So how to do that without calculating and logging? Firstly, before I jump into macros, I see quite a few of you, to be honest, when I review your logs, miss your micronutrients. And we talk, I always say macros are king, but let's make micronutrients queen, okay, to their king. Micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, but fiber. Fiber is what you might be missing. 25 grams per day for women and 38 grams per day for men. It becomes a little bit less after the age of 50, 60, but we're not predominantly like that. My audience is not there yet. For women, it doesn't change drastically. It's more for men that it reduces after the age of 50, 60. And water. So let's not forget about these, because sometimes I see perfect logs, perfect macro balancing, but I don't see micronutrients. And that's going to be second step. If you come for aesthetics reasons, and that's normally the case at the beginning of your journeys, I will reduce the overwhelm and focus just on macros. But if your macros start being spot on, we need to address micronutrients. They help your body turn food into energy. Without the right micronutrient ratio and enough fiber, you're not going to be metabolizing the food or well enough, the food that you provide. So you might see progress stalling, you might be hitting perfect macros, but there is some vitamins and minerals responsible for certain processes to digest that food and to utilize, to absorb, your body for your body to absorb, not enough. Then obviously they support immunity and recovery. If you feel like you're always catching colds, you're always ill, maybe you're a bit sluggish, your macros are on point and you're not in a long deficit phase, it's worth addressing your micronutrients. And it's not enough to be eating rocket and lettuce every single meal. We need a variety, around 30 different sources per week of micronutrients. And that includes any whole food. Those micronutrients will be coming also from protein sources, from nuts, seeds, veg, fruit, etc., etc. But it's worth addressing how varied your diet is. If you experience any of the signs that just mentioned, like you're tired, your progress has stalled, even though your macros are great. If you're in a calorie deficit, you stopped losing weight, or maybe you're in maintenance and all of a sudden your energy dipped, and also excluding the cycle reasons. And finally, they regulate hormones and mood. So this is a must in any healthy diet, also away on holidays and when traveling and on busy days. So now getting into more practical, I know you're all waiting for it. So I simplified the method, how I build my meals when traveling, when on holidays, and when super busy. Obviously, certain things will be easier for people that have more seated jobs. Surprise, surprise. Yes, I know always office workers tell me I was so busy I couldn't eat, but it's much easier than for someone on the go and moving around and not having a chance to just grab something from a cupboard or an office fridge. So 4 steps, like I mentioned, protein is king. Always start from protein as your base, no matter what. There will be maybe some exceptions that I will mention later, but just to simplify it, number 1 is protein based. Number 2, it's not carbs, it's not fats. It's your veggies and fiber. And it doesn't need to be perfect, not in every meal. But again, going back to the previous slide, we need 25 grams just to metabolize the food that you provide. So veggies and fiber non-negotiably, no matter the circumstances. Only then can you start thinking about carbs and fats. I'm putting fats as last, probably to some of your surprise, because your fats will automatically, quite naturally, slip into your daily intake through protein bases, or at least some protein bases, and through some carb sources. So I leave them as last because we need them the least in terms of the quantity, not in terms of importance. And it's the easiest to hit them even if you're too low on your fats. So first protein, then veggies, fiber, carbs, and fats. So what happens on travel days and busy work weeks? Exactly the same. Surprise, surprise. I thought I'm going to be cheeky and I include this. Nothing changes. The same pattern. So get it to your head. First protein, then veggies, fiber, then carbs, then fats. How does that look from a practical standpoint? I was thinking how to put it in writing so that it's easiest for you to remember and absorb. So I've decided to give you a live example of the live macros of someone. There's not any particular person I had in mind, but I thought I'm going to put higher protein so that it's the more difficult case when, how, and in what way to hit that higher level of protein. Imagine someone is on 150 grams of protein a day. Most of you eat 3 meals and 2 snacks. Most, because some prefer just one snack, one bigger snack rather than 2 small ones, but it works best for most people. So imagine the ideal day, how I would split 150 grams of protein per day is all in black, okay? So that black number is 40 grams lunch, breakfast, 40 lunch, 40 dinner, and just small amount of protein per snack. Obviously, this will differ depending on your goals and preferences. Some people prefer backloading protein, some front loading, meaning they would leave the protein till the end of the day, or maybe they will eat more in the first half of the day and leave more carbs and more space for carbs at the end. But I simplified it so that it's absorbed evenly, it keeps your satiety at the same level, consistent level. So that's your ideal scenario, 40, 40, 40, and snacks 15. Now, what happens, and I think it's worth actually taking notice of for both travels and busy days, because the sooner you start hitting your protein, the more likely you're gonna end up on point. But the more you procrastinate on busy days with protein, the more likely you are to be away from your target. So what I normally do, for work and for holidays, for example, it's going to be different because when you travel and when you're on holidays, you want to have some leeway and build a bit of margin for at least one meal of your choice, a meal of freedom, a meal when you're going to go to a restaurant and probably order something that is not perfectly balanced. And the same for the dessert. You want to have maybe a dessert that will have less protein, but is going to be higher in fat. Think your cakes, think your I don't know, cheese board or something that is not necessarily very well balanced. So I will always leave one snack and one main meal. It could be lunch, it could be dinner. Most of the time it would be dinner once you travel, business meetings, and those questionable pleasures of dining with your colleagues are normally dinners, especially when you're away. Could be lunches, but again, interchangeably, lunch, dinner. So it will be a less balanced meal, and so will be your snack. So let's make sure that you're hitting your protein in another main meal. That's why I've increased the amount of protein in your lunch. So, we're talking about not usual conditions. So if once in the blue moon, once in a while, you kind of change the ratio of the equal amount of protein provided per meal, nothing happens. It doesn't mean that 55 is not going to be absorbed or metabolized, because what matters overall is whether you hit your protein. The hunger cues might be a bit stronger between breakfast and lunch, or maybe between after dinner. But all in all, you want to fit your calories so that you leave some space for non-balanced dinner, let's call it, and non-balanced snack. So I'm changing the ratio, lowering the amount of protein in dinner. It could even become 20 here, and we could stick to 40 in breakfast. I'll tell you in a second with live examples of food, but I first want to talk method, okay? Does this make sense? Are you following? Yes, no? Or do you need, yeah? Cool. Obviously, most of you had already traveled while being in program, and that's what we discussed. One meal of freedom, one snack of freedom, but then preload your protein in other places. So that's your method for protein. For example, veggies and fiber. You need quite a lot of veggies to hit certain amount of fiber, and certain sources will be better than the others in terms of density of fibers. Like your grains won't have much fiber. They will have a little bit, but beans, pulses, lentils, chickpeas, nuts, and seeds, that will have more fiber than green veggies, for example. So ideal scenario is the black side. So let's say you're getting a bit of fiber from breakfast, 10 grams, a bit from lunch. Maybe your dinner is not going to be that well balanced. Snack potentially will have some as well, if it's a healthy snack with, let's say, yogurt and blueberries. And snack two, freedom. So that completely changes when you travel, when you're away. Your dinner and two snacks probably won't have any fiber. Dinner, depending what you obviously go for, if it's a steak and a salad, you still will hit some amount of fiber, but think again, your veggies won't be the main source. So you have to preload at least lunch to have enough fiber. And I would be mixing all sorts of veggies there, a bit of nuts or seeds to add it to your salad, and maybe base your carb sources for lunch on lentils and grains, like those that you boil in water. For breakfast, they could be coming again from a bit of salad, or if you like a sweet breakfast with some fruit. But in general, you need to get some decent amount of veg, fruit, nuts, lentils, legumes, pulses in those first two meals, because the likelihood of you hitting it later on is low, or hitting enough. So I assume the worst scenario, 0. Then we go for carbs distribution on the travel days. So if you have a one meal of freedom and one snack of freedom, most likely you're gonna go for something that is hearty, and let's be honest, in restaurants they don't prioritize protein because it's not economical and it doesn't just pay off for them. So they will fill up the calories with either carbs or fats, and most likely with both. So I'm assuming your dinner will be probably the heaviest in carbs. From your usual split, imagining you'll have 150 grams of carbs per day, 40, 40, 40, just to keep your satiety at level, snacks a little bit less, then we're gonna get almost nothing. That's what you should be doing, reducing your carbs almost completely from your breakfast. Those 10 grams would probably be coming from the fiber and vitamins and minerals in your fruit or in veggies, depending what you eat for breakfast. And lunch should also have very little carbs, because I'm preparing you for a meal of freedom as a dinner. I'm assuming maybe 60 grams. Imagine you go for a pizza or pasta or something like that, and the snack 40 grams. Obviously, it could be easily tipped, but if you maintain that sort of structure, lower carbs breakfast, lower lunch, then you have a bit of calorie bank built for your dinner and snack. The snack can easily go through the roof when we think cakes and all sorts of sauces and sugar and pastries and stuff like this. So most likely your 150 grams per day is going to be exceeded even in those two meals. So it's just wise to damage control, okay? Because we're not looking for ideally hitting your macros, because it's quite difficult, if not impossible, when traveling, but maintaining the simple structure and some points that make you, one, feel good about yourselves, that you had control over something, and again, reinforce that new identity of someone that looks after their fitness, health, nutrition, while away. So let's move on. Your healthy fats. I will quite controversially say that I would completely get rid of healthy fats on the days when you know you are going to be eating out, or you travel and you're going to, well, eat out. Yeah. So whether it's holidays or work travels, it's the same. If we're talking busy days, I should have actually mentioned that before, because all the in black, the protein 40, 40, 40, this is your structure for busy days as well. And the pink one is just when circumstances are different. For busy days, but when you're in your normal, usual environment, you're just busy and swamped with work, that structure of ideal, let's say, split will remain. I'll talk about strategies, what's good, quick, on the go, at the right moment. But the pink one refers only when you're outside your usual environment. You travel, you're in a hotel, I don't know, you're visiting a friend. So your healthy fats, I would say scrape them, because they're going to be very, very easily tipped over and have a look at dinner and snack. And then again, that can easily go above 20 grams. And assuming you have 20, 30%, and if we look at the black side of the table, you have 40 grams of fats, this could easily be tipped just through dinner and snack of your choice, the freedom meals, once you travel, once you're on holidays. So I would definitely be lowering fats for whatever price from other meals, so that you at least stay balanced overall when it comes to macros. So I wouldn't be looking anymore at the health benefits, because it's 1-2 days off your usual schedule. Nothing's gonna happen if you don't include healthy sources of fats, like, I don't know, eggs or salmon and nuts and seeds, because you're gonna get them from somewhere else. So we're talking about what we do in the majority of times, right? So this is exceptional, again, situation of travels. So if you're, yeah, actually, I'm not going to talk yet because I have visuals so that you remember better. So I would honestly lower fats in any meal as much as I can to save calories for dinner and for snack, for example. So that's it when it comes to structure. I know it looks like, what the hell is it? How am I doing it? So yes, that's what we're going to talk. So firstly, I thought we're going to talk about busy breakfast. Busy because some of you tell me I was so busy, I couldn't eat breakfast. Well, the problem is if you don't have the right products, you're never gonna grab to anything that is well balanced and will give you what you need. So again, prep and preparing is king, because failing to prepare is preparing to fail. And I can't imagine a fridge without some sort of quick, easy to grab source of protein, like either skyr or Greek yogurt, or at least your protein powder. It doesn't need to be this brand, by the way, but something that is convenient. We're talking convenience. You don't need to rely, I don't want you to rely on protein powders as your main ingredient of the diet, but they have their place. They have their perfect place on busy days, on when you don't have time to cook, don't have time to think, and you know you want to provide your body what it needs rather than what it wants. And that's going to be first, as you notice, protein. So I also can't imagine a fridge without having 2, 3, even 4 different types of fruit, so that we're thinking, look, what comes next? It's your fiber. It's also any source of fiber will be partially a source of your carbs, but we're talking whole foods, so veggies or fruit, obviously for breakfast. Don't know many people that would eat veggies, but I can't imagine not having that in the fridge. So whatever happens, it's burning, it's you know, you should be looking at your food shop on the days when you're less busy. And that's what I think we talked about last week, about having that, or maybe on the Monday mindset, a power hour, 1 hour a day that you totally devote to fitness. And fitness is not just training, it's not stretching, it's not walking, but it's nutrition. It's such a big part of fitness. So if you can't go and train, or if you have only 1 hour on one day, and you know the next day you have just a half an hour, and you're choosing and tossing between shopping for your food or going and training, I would always choose food, honestly, because one training missed is not going to cause so many negative consequences as the lack of the ingredients in the fridge. Sure, you can grab these quickly somewhere on the go, but what if you don't? You know, then the choices that you're going to go for are going to be less optimistic and less useful, probably causing more negative consequences than just a missed workout. And also with that workout, you can also make up the following day, but a missed day of balanced eating is a missed day. You can't kind of undereat double the following day. So, and finally, these nuts and seeds. Again, I do not imagine a house without those. I always have a mix of nuts. My favorite is walnuts for brain, probably the best, Brazil nuts, cashews, and almonds, and nuts as well. So these 3 combos are your busy breakfast. Does anyone do those? I know you do, some. But is there anything that you have a better idea for, let's say, non-sweet breakfast? Anyone? Like a busy breakfast we're talking. We're not talking full English, because yeah, that also has its place, but maybe not on a busy day. Any other ideas? Let's do some brainstorming if I'm missing something. But for me, it's so straightforward. On a busy day, I'm not thinking much about flavors and what I fancy, but I know I need to eat now, and it needs to be 3-minute prep, or I'm not going to eat right. If no other ideas, boiled eggs, yeah, could do, but then we're talking protein amount. So 2 boiled eggs, 12 grams, 450 grams of skyr, 45 of protein. 2 scoops of bulk, 45 grams of protein. You see where I'm going? 2 boiled eggs is not enough. Then what with? Yeah, exactly, Kate. Then boiled eggs, what would you eat them with to provide fiber, vitamins, and minerals? Right? With a salad, then it will take time to maybe prep, to maybe chop. I'll tell you about quick hacks in a sec, how to deal with those as well. Yes, spinach, one source, could be. I think it would take more time though, and less variety than sources of fat, possibly. But the worst thing that I'm thinking might happen with two boiled eggs is just not enough protein. So if you go back to the first slide of your busy day, that could be the quite even split of 30, 30, 30 or 40, 40, 40 grams of protein per meal, per main meal. Okay, so two hard-boiled eggs or soft-boiled eggs or whatever way, two eggs would be not enough. You would have to have liquid whites, maybe, to make it higher. But then how much of that? And again, then you have to boil, you have to stand by the kitchen and stir and whatever. That is not very quick. I think that is a better option on their busy days. But eggs have their place for sure. It's just that, again, you would have to add something quickly to eggs. Busy lunch, surprise, surprise. If we're talking, going back to your slide about carb and protein intake and so on and so forth, and fat intake on a busy day, normally most of you at least prefer having more carbs in the evening just to stay a bit sharper once you're at work. So you leave those carbs till the end of the day. So to get your carbs not too high, but at the same time provide enough fiber, vitamins and minerals, I always suggest a salad. It could be any salad, but obviously this is the best, the quickest, because it's ready-made. It's called a variety of veg, and look at the variety. You have, I see lettuce or some sort of salad, carrots, tomatoes, and corn. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 4 different types of veg, plus a tray of chicken breast. And my favorite is balsamic vinegar. You might not like balsamic vinegar, but I would always opt for a dry salad rather than ready-made. One, because of the amount of protein that will give you, and like a ready-made chicken Caesar salad, and 2, dressings. So I would watch, and dressings will have normally either too much fats or too much sugar. So if you want to make your own dressing, like if you're an office worker, I would always have balsamic vinegar, honestly, in my cupboard. Or it could be also another source of protein instead of chicken, could be boiled eggs, which you can buy like in Marks and Spencer's already 2 boiled eggs, but then you need to look at the protein source again. So you would add either a shake afterwards or you would eat your yogurt afterwards. But eggs in general could be quick, but won't give you enough protein. That's why I'm again signaling, so that you remember that if you eat eggs, it's not going to be enough in terms of your main meal and the sources of protein. So any ideas for the sauces? I also like soy sauce, cooked soy sauce, and like mustard, ketchup could do. Quickie, we're talking just giving some flavor to the salad, could do, but that is your quick busy lunch. Busy dinner, so many of you are probably guilty of what to cook, and you say, I didn't have time, I ordered takeaway. So these are your quick options for a busy dinner. It might be surprising that I'm putting mashed potato here, ready-made. They will be a little bit processed just for the shelf life, but so what? We're not talking of eating them daily and relying on them, and also the amount of preservatives there compared to your 80-20 rule is absolutely irrelevant. And some of you forget, we can get them the same, you can get boiled potatoes, whatever. You can still obviously have your already boiled sources of protein, like that chicken breast tray or already cooked salmon fillets. You can have microwavable rice or grains. You can also buy pasta that is already cooked, and obviously add your, I probably should have swapped the order. I would put either frozen veg. Also, I can't imagine a house without mixed veg frozen in your freezer. That is so quick, so easy. You just throw them on boiling water and 5 minutes later, ready. If you have a bit of time, or you're going to be still working and you have time to put the chicken to the oven or whatever meat to the oven, that is a lifesaver. That is basically me cooking every day. Putting that chicken to the oven. I can't tell you how many times I forgot about it and burnt it, but put the timer on and go to work. And then you have it ready. Then you put a mashed potato just to the microwave. So this is so quick and still keeps the base in check. So your protein source, your veg and fiber, and then source of carbs, which probably will be the longest to prep if from scratch, like rice, normal rice, and peeling potatoes. So do you use any of these? Or you're scared of microwaves? Because that's another probably subject. Yeah, ideally cooking from scratch, but again, we're talking busy dinners. Nice, frozen veg. Yeah, and honestly, apart from those ready-made packets, you can make your own frozen veg and frozen fruit. I should have probably mentioned, I freeze my fruit also for the shakes. So it gives a completely different texture to the shakes, and it, obviously the temperature is different. So I feel like I'm eating ice cream. For example, I love freezing bananas. I chop them in. I think it was actually Kate that inspired me for that. She sent me a recipe once of banana protein ice cream, and that was literally a mix of bananas frozen and protein powder and what? And the milk, almond milk, I think. Cool. So that's your busy days. Literally, don't overthink it and don't go into what you fancy. Because when you start going into what you fancy, you're gonna end up probably with a takeaway because you don't have time to cook properly. But also, like, if you're busy but you come back home and super hungry, like, your best option is to start prepping these immediately rather than think, because when you're hungry, your decision making is going to be totally different. Not ideally thinking of the ideal ratio of the protein, of the veg and fiber. So let's have it always in our cupboards. That's another thing to buy, like the microwavable stuff and the frozen veg, maybe frozen fruits as well. Now, on to travels. Let me just move that. I don't know if you can see the chat window. Yeah, on to travels. So travel breakfast swaps. So once you're traveling, let's go back maybe very, very quickly to these slides. So think about your carb sources that are going to be higher. That's the pink side, right? So the scenario is that if you travel, whether it's for work or holidays, your carbs in the dinner and for a snack will be higher, and so will be your fats. So your best option is to reduce carbs and fats for your breakfast and lunch. And then we still stick to protein as your base of anything. So if your usual breakfasts are these, so either scrambled eggs with toast or whatever else you add there, or oats with peanut butter and whatever else you put on top, any fruit, your best options is from breakfast number one to reduce fat to go there because it's savory. So I've kind of alternated it with savory. Maybe not the yummiest for breakfast. I don't know. I could eat that. I don't mind as long as I know I'm hitting my protein goal and fiber. I'm cool because I know I'm going to be rewarded for dinner, let's say, and a snack. And the same is with that sweet oaty breakfast. Let's reduce carbs because you're going to have plenty of them in dinner and in a snack. So going for low carb, low calorie fruit. And your best option when you travel, honestly, like firstly, you probably can get anywhere in the world. No, okay, Europe. Maybe let's not generalize, but anywhere in the Europe, you can get some sort of Greek yogurt or skyr is getting more and more popular. So that could be your option. I would read the nutritional labels, because not every Greek yogurt with 0% fat will be with such a good macros balance. You're looking around 10 grams of protein, for around 10 grams of protein per 100 grams, and the lowest amount of carbs. Like skyr is the best. And I've noticed that in other countries in Europe, the Greek yogurts are not that good. They will have high carbs, low protein, because that will go interchangeably. If your protein is lower, then your carbs will be higher. So again, the idea is to reduce carbs, reduce fats. That's your options. And honestly, you can get your protein powder or get it with you, especially if you travel in the UK just for work. And also even for holidays. But there is ways, like I never travel with my protein. Always find a way to hit it another way. But that's an option as well, depending, again, what you're doing, where you are, whether you'll have time to shop, and so on and so forth. And then your travel lunch swaps, surprise, surprise. If your lunches look like this, because you split your carbs and split your protein and split your fats evenly throughout the 3 main meals, so it could be a pasta, it could be a jacket potato, it could be just chicken and potatoes, I would again be lowering your fats, your carbs. It could be a good solution, could be a soup, even that ready-made. They are pretty good. Read the nutritional labels, but I would add protein, extra protein on top. Normally, anything ready-made will not have enough protein for your goals. Again, it doesn't pay off to anyone, so they will ask you to get an extra and charge you more. So make sure either a salad or a soup will do. Yeah, but with the soups, with the ready-made soaps, I would again read nutritional labels. They normally give amount per 100 grams, like that cup probably is 500 grams. So make sure you read nutritional labels carefully. And depending on how much overall calories you're getting, choose the lowest. Then normally the lowest will be the chicken broth soups. So don't go for sexy beans and lentils, because they will lift your carbs. Again, the goal for your lunches and for your breakfast is to reduce fat and carbs. So going back to the basics, just salad and that. And again, think of it, I'm doing what I need rather than what I want, because I will be doing what I want for dinner and snack, let's say. And that way you maintain some sort of balance. And now so for me, that will be really it. Like, do you have any other ideas? Again, brainstorming what you do. Maddie, you've been traveling recently. Have you used any of those? We obviously chatted before your travels. Did you do anything differently? Any different ideas, methods, or structuring for breakfast, lunches? But I believe basically that's what I prompted you to
Yeah.
be doing, right?
Yeah, it was 0% Greek yogurt and some fruit.
Yeah,
But I guess I have a question.
go.
If you're at a breakfast buffet, for example, at a hotel, and do you still reach for the Greek yogurt when, like, I'm not sure if that's 0% fat Greek yogurt or just, full fat Greek yogurt. Am I better to go for that still with some fruit as opposed to the eggs?
Yeah. Well, that is a good question, first of all, and depending what you're going to be doing for lunch. So I'll tell you what I did now when I was away in a hotel and I had breakfast included.
Hmm.
So I had less control over, actually I had equal control over breakfast. And so what I was going, one day I would be going for higher fats and higher protein. So I would have um, eggs, and I don't know how many eggs I had, because I didn't have boiled, I had scrambled, and I would assume there was more fat also in the way they were preparing them. So I would almost exclude carbs from breakfast. And I would focus on protein, even if fats might have been higher. Also, cold meats, I would be reaching for those. And I would have that yogurt because it would have some protein. Most likely, it won't be 0%, but it will again lift some protein. And to look after your fiber, let's not forget the first top two things is protein, but also fiber. I would be having that yogurt with fruit, for example, but like some low carb fruit. Rather than going for bananas, I would go for berries or melon or orange. Yeah. So, and then for lunch, knowing that my fats were high for breakfast, I would have a choice to go for something lighter, like salad base, ask for a dressing on the side, or prep my own lunch, or have it just on the go, like a yogurt and fruit again. But making sure again I have a source of fiber and protein, but then lower with fats. Does it make sense?
Yeah, so you can go kind of either way, but just kind of
Yeah,
use just
because if you go and look at that,
and
when you
balance.
look at fat content, so
Yeah.
ideally I like preloading fats in breakfast anyway. That is your ideal scenario. And then my lunch would anyway be always lower in fats because I like having more fats for dinner again. But then if your breakfast was, let's say, 15 or 20, then my lunch will be low, my snack will be low, and then whatever happens.
Mhm.
But at least making sure that one snack and one main meal lower in fats. Yeah, because if you're talking, because I know you traveled, you were in a hotel, right? And you had breakfast included.
Yeah, yeah. So often when I travel with work, we stay at a hotel and we get breakfast included. And often they provide us with lunch as well, which makes it tricky because you don't have access to the shops to, get your own food and things like that. But yeah, you just make do with what you can, I
And
guess.
what happens for dinners?
And
You
for
go out.
we go out to dinner. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's
total challenge. Yeah, then just control what you can.
yeah.
Focus on veggies, focus on fruit. Like I wouldn't worry about carbs coming from there because your first priority, go back to
Mhm.
it's going to be vegetable fiber. So don't compromise vegetables fiber because let's say your mangoes and oranges have carbs and you want the lower carbs. Screw that because even if your carbs anyway are going to be tipped, let's make sure at least you have fiber to digest whatever on like excessive calories you've consumed. Make
Yeah,
sense?
makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then where were we? Yeah, so that's your swaps. In general, I thought I'm also gonna talk general swaps because I actually had one of you sending me pictures. She's not here today. Pictures of what she bought while being in a hotel and having her own dinners at a hotel. So breakfast included, lunch included, dinners not. So that's literally, I put her on the spot, but I'm not gonna throw names. She did pretty good, pretty well. So she bought literally wafer thin ham, protein shake, dried apricot, ready-made salad, and the protein yogurt. So that is not bad because it's very thoughtful thinking of protein, but not that much of fiber. Okay, so that's why I'm swapping certain things for others and also for some other reasons. So let's analyze. Ham swapped for chicken pieces. Why? Because ham will not give you enough volume to hit the right amount of protein. It might be low in, I don't like cold meats in general, like on a everyday basis because they are processed. I don't know what goes there. And even if it's 96% of ham, what is the other for, right? So I'd rather cook my own chicken and then slice it and have it as a cold meat. But we're talking again, low time, little time, and maybe busy and different circumstances. So if you on the go, I would grab the chicken pieces more over ham for the volume and the amount of protein overall. Then instead of ready-made salad, I would make my own salad, which would also be very quickly. Anyway, you have to open that Waitrose chicken Caesar salad and mix it. And literally, you will have to open that and also mix it. It just that you're in control on your own protein and fats. Here, not that much. Even if you reduce the amount of side dressing that it give you, it's quite dense and thick, so you might overdo compared to what you need. With balsamic vinegar, you're safe, but also I'll talk about dressings in a second. Then instead of the ready-made chocolate or whatever flavored protein shake, ready-made, fine, it's not a crime, but if you have a chance, I will literally combine my own shake with water and powder, and I would have a bit of a snack because of fiber. Like that lacks fiber, but will provide a shit ton of carbs and also fats. And again, it's more processed. These are not processed that much. Yeah, again, it's convenience, both are convenience, but this is a better option. And then you can have control again over your fiber. Dried apricot and any dried fruit over, fresh fruit over any dried fruit, because of sugar content and also the way they do them. Normally some of the dried fruit will be caramelized, so again, additional sugar, and also volume. You eat 3 apricots and you have the same amount of carbs as this whole 150 or 200 gram of a box of blueberries. And when we talk satiety, the more the better. You want to go for volume always, so that the longer you eat, the longer it takes for you, that activity takes you longer, and then the signal has a chance to travel from your digestive system to the brain. So you will feel like you're fuller when you finish your meal, and after you pour 3 dried apricots, even though the calories have been provided, you might still feel like having another 10, for example. But again, I like using dried fruit on top of things, but not as a main source of fiber. They still will have fiber, but probably a little bit less due to certain processes of production. And at least some of the fruit, like that dried apricot is probably just dried, it's not caramelized. But watch the dried fruit in general, like figs and dates and whatever. Then for the very same reason as the ready-made shake and the ready-made yogurt, I would just combine my own, because that natural Greek yogurt and skyr will be less processed, will have less preservatives and less sugar and less fat. And then again, that yogurt, ready-made protein, doesn't have any fiber. So again, I would combine these two. So that is the perfect example why macros are not even to each other. Even if that will be, that protein powder will be the same as the whole of those 3, it will not provide you with the same amount of micronutrients. And then digestion is different, metabolism is different. And then going towards our simple tricks. I never put them on. Okay, simple tricks. I know why. Now I remember. So simple tricks to make your life easier. I actually want brainstorm here. So I can start with one simple trick of how to eat more fiber, and tell me if you can come up with more stuff. So my idea, like, I used to hate veggies and prepping, like not maybe hate, but they will be as the last in terms of importance. And somehow it happened that I was skipping at least enough amount of the veggies and fruit that I am supposed to be eating daily. So my simple trick for veggies, when I buy them, whether it's rocket and lettuce and or whether it's fruit, blueberries or raspberries or mango, whatever, I prepare them straight away. So I wash them and I lunchbox them and I put them in the fridge. So they are much easier to grab for than preparing every single day their salad. I do the same with every other veg, because it just makes it so obvious. They are there. If they are somewhere at the back of your fridge and they are still in packaging, you're unlikely to get them, especially if you're rushing. So I chop my mangoes, I peel them, I wash the blueberries. They are in a mix with all the dark fruits like blueberries, blackberries will be together. Then softer fruit like raspberries, mango will be mixed together, or like depending how many types of fruit you want to have. And the same with salad. I mix rocket and lettuce, or sometimes I buy that crunchy mix mixed with rocket, because I don't really like lettuce, but rocket is my favorite. But again, for variety, I buy more. Any ideas of how to increase your intake of fiber and veggies and fruit? I've already mentioned, just want to wrap it up. So making it obvious, right, that it's there in a lunchbox, already chopped, and you just grab a handful of everything. What else? Fiber and veg and fruit. Let's talk vitamins, micronutrients. No idea. Number two would be to freeze them. Okay. Have them frozen. If you don't freeze them, I also keep a bunch of veg and fruit in the freezer. That's it. Exactly, Steph. And both, and you don't need to rely on those ready-made packages of the usual corn, peas, and carrots. You can have your own mix of veg. I sometimes make but maybe that in second. So yeah, so whatever veg will work, maybe greens the least, but like the greens, I'm talking leaves. But any fruit will really work. Like imagine banana. I don't know if you've ever tried, but honestly, it's a game changer for your shakes. Try it. And so frozen, yes. And once we talk about freezing stuff, what I do when I travel so that I come back home and I have stuff ready to eat and it's a good, well-balanced meal and I can't be asked to cook, I cook more of, let's say, a goulash or a curry and I freeze it and I just portion it. So then when I come back, I just take out 2-3 portions. So I have it not just for the night that I'm coming back, but for the following day, because that is so often, I watch it so often with you, with other clients, that once you come back after holidays or longer travel, it's hard to put your shit together, let's be honest, and go shopping, and then work is overwhelming and whatever not. So try this. Cook more, freeze so that you have ready meal, but it's your own, you're in control, you know what went there. So that's that. Number 4 or whatever, how to get maybe now more protein, or make sure you always have protein. It's so straightforward, and I think I talked very clearly about it. Prep it. I mean, have it. Prep, by prepping, I mean just buy it in bulk. So many of you buy 1 container of a Greek yogurt or 1 tray of chicken breast. Bloody hell, get 3 and put them to the oven, all 3 trays, and you have 6 chicken breasts. It can serve you as an extra to your soups, as an extra to your salads. It can be a cold meat on top of your sandwich, or you can just microwave it and have it as a main meal. The same with yogurt. You can have it as a snack, as a mix with protein powder or whatever. Just have the more than 1, because whatever's not in the fridge is not gonna go to your gut, obviously. And there was one more thing. Oh yeah, microwavable stuff, and also the meat that is already marinated, so you don't need to deal with it. Lifesaver. I hate handling meat, and I get chicken that is marinated, salmon that is marinated. I already buy chopped, diced not mince, beef, and I just put it to the pots, and I make goulash style meals. And the only meat I handle is steak, but I just flip it with a fork. And then with meatballs, I don't buy the ready ones because they have already mix of breadcrumbs and whatever, and I don't trust it. So I learned how to make meatballs with 2 spoons. But yeah, just overall, get your meat ready so you don't feel discouraged from getting it done and getting it ready. So that's that. My secret weapons are what gives me flavor, especially when I'm dieting. So I don't know if it's just Polish thing, all those marinated veg, but I mean, it's a game changer for any salad, but also as a side for your fiber and veg. Sometimes I can be asked even to pick from different lunch boxes and combine a nice salad. So I will get a jar of gherkins and I'll just load the gherkins, and at least I have peace of mind that there was some sort of fiber. Was it very exciting and varied? No, but it did exist, okay? Another thing I didn't put here, I freeze also my herbs. So I chop dill, I chop coriander, massive bunch, and I put it in the lunchbox and it's there. So I would sprinkle that to make myself feel better that there is another source of fiber and a variety. With sauces, ketchup, definitely 50% less sugar and salt. That one is actually very good compared to other brands. Heinz is the least processed, I would say. Mustard, super low in calories, changes the flavor so much. And that combo, it's your garlic dip. Okay, and if you want to be cheeky, you can add a bit of mayo, like half a tablespoon with a tablespoon of skyr and garlic, and it's just amazing. So that's the tricks, my secret weapons. And I hope it helped. Like things are straightforward, but once you see them black and white and we put everything together, it stays better. So anything that I missed, you reckon? Maybe anything to secret weapons? Maybe any one of you has something quick on the go that you add to your meals that changes the flavor but doesn't increase unnecessarily the calories but looks after the base, so protein and fiber. No secrets, or you just don't want to share? If no, that's cool. And just if you were to take one thing out of this workshop, yeah, spices to add flavor, totally. And spices, remember herbs as well. And they taste so much different when they are fresh or frozen, like dill and coriander, to when you have them dried in those little containers. Totally different. Yeah, so that also counts, by the way, as one of the 30 per week. So your chili peppers, your black pepper, your turmeric, and whatever else. So if there was one thing that you would take from this workshop, protein first, fiber second. Don't go into your carbs and fats. Think if I have these two, and then we're good. As always, thank you very much. Appreciate you, love you all. And if there is no questions, it seems there is none. I wish you a good evening and I'll speak to you soon. See you on the next one.